No one had ever seen a human inside the Imperial Hall before. The chamber stretched wider than any cathedral built by man, a living monument of light and stone, its walls pulsing faintly with veins of gold that carried the heartbeats of an empire older than Earth's written history. At the center of it all stood the throne of ascendancy, carved from a single meteor of shimmering obsidian, so ancient that its first occupant had ruled before humanity discovered fire. And now a human stood before it. Captain Elias Ward, explorer, soldier, diplomat by necessity, looked almost small against the radiant immensity of the hall. His dark uniform was still flecked with the dust of alien worlds, and his boots echoed softly on the crystalline floor. The thousands of alien delegates filling the balconies above leaned forward, whispering in a dozen tongues. Some snickered, others hissed. A few recorded the moment for history, the moment the last amusement of a dying empire began. The Kalaran Empire was collapsing. Worlds were breaking away. Their god-empress had vanished centuries ago, and no heir had ever been accepted by the throne, which was said to choose its ruler by mind and soul, not by blood. No alien had been deemed worthy in 300 years. So when Elias had been invited as a symbolic guest, it was meant to be a joke, a display of humility or mockery. Let the primitive try his luck, one of the nobles had laughed. Perhaps the throne will pity his ignorance, another replied, to waves of alien laughter. Elias heard them, but he said nothing. He had come here for diplomacy, to secure safe passage for the last human colonies near the Kalaran border. He hadn't come for power, yet something about the throne called to him. A low hum vibrated in the air, not through sound, but through memory, through something older than language. It was as if the obsidian stone recognized something buried deep in him, something even he didn't understand. The Grand Vizier floated forward, a towering being of translucent tendrils and jeweled armor, and gestured toward the seat. "Human," he said, his voice translated by hovering drones. "The council has agreed to allow your curiosity. Sit if you dare. Perhaps it will entertain us before this council adjourns." The balconies roared with cruel laughter. Elias took a slow breath. He didn't know why he did it. Pride, defiance, destiny, maybe all of them. But he stepped forward anyway. The hum of the hall deepened, as though the structure itself was holding its breath. He ascended the steps. Every instinct in him screamed, "Don't." His mind told him this was suicide. Legend said that those who were unworthy and tried to claim the throne were burned alive by its judgment, dissolved into pure light. But something else, something ancient and quiet, whispered back, "Go on. Sit. Remember what you are." He placed his hands on the cold surface and lowered himself into the throne. For an instant, nothing happened. Then the universe trembled. The golden veins in the walls flared white. The laughter died in the throats of thousands. A wave of energy surged from the seat, spiraling upward like a storm of light and wind. The entire hall quaked, and from the depth of the throne came a voice, not spoken, but felt in the marrow of every living being. Identity confirmed. Bloodline recognized. The seed of the makers has returned. The aliens screamed. Some fell to their knees. Others ran. The Grand Vizier recoiled in disbelief. Impossible. The makers are extinct. The humans are primitive. Elias finished quietly, his voice strange, layered with something more than human. The throne glowed beneath him, its obsidian reshaping, fitting his form as if molded by unseen hands. The light dimmed. The storm subsided. Then the impossible happened. The throne of ascendancy bowed. It bent, slightly reverently, the stone shifting downward in a gesture of fealty, as though the artifact itself were acknowledging its true master. Every being in the chamber felt the weight of that motion, the empire itself, after millennia of silence, kneeling. Elias sat frozen. His breath came shallow. The air smelled like ozone and starlight. The throne whispered in his mind, showing him visions, memories of the first empire, when humans had not been the lost children of the stars, but their architects. He saw colossal starships shaped like continents, cities floating on suns, beings of light kneeling before humans, before them. The first race. It was too much. He tore himself free of the visions, gripping the throne's arms. What is this?" he gasped. The voice returned, softer now, almost tender. The circle is broken. The heirs forgot. But you remember. And so, the throne remembers you. Silence followed, deep, suffocating silence. Then the chamber exploded in chaos. Alien nobles shouted, arguing, pleading. The Grand Vizier floated back, trembling. This cannot be. The throne cannot bow to a lesser being. But the throne pulsed again, and all who stood within the hall heard the same telepathic decree. The throne does not bow to the lesser. The throne bows to the lost. The word spread across the empire like wildfire. Within hours, millions of systems received the transmission. The throne had awakened. The empire had recognized a new master, and he was human. Elias could feel it. A connection grown between him and the endless networks that power the Kaleran civilization. He could hear their machines, their fleets, their sentient cities whispering, "He has returned." He didn't know what to do with it, didn't even know if he wanted it. But deep down, something within him felt right. Perhaps this was why humanity had survived the wars, the collapses, the centuries of exile among the stars. Not because of power, because of memory. He rose from the throne. The glow followed him, shaping into a faint halo that cast his shadow across the trembling hall. "Enough," he said. His voice carried like thunder, amplified not by volume but by presence. "Your empires rise and fall. You call yourselves rulers, yet you forgot who built your stars. You laugh at humanity, but we remember what it means to begin again." The Grand Vizier bowed, shaking. "Then what will you do, human? Claim the empire?" Elias looked around, at the thousands of alien eyes staring at him. Some in awe, others in hatred. "No," he said, "I'll restore it. Not as yours, not as mine, but as ours." And somewhere deep within the throne, an ancient pulse echoed approval, as though the stars themselves agreed. Far above the chamber, the first light of dawn broke across the capital world's twin suns. For the first time in centuries, they rose upon a future that no one, not alien, not machine, not God, had ever imagined. A human had sat on the throne, and the throne had bowed. The Kaleran Empire had not known peace in 3 centuries. Its fleets, once endless, had fractured into rival armadas. Its worlds, once shining jewels, now burned in rebellion. The memory of its creators, the makers, had long been erased from official records, dismissed as myth by arrogant scholars who believed their kind had risen from the dust by their own brilliance. But the throne remembered, and now, so did its new occupant. When Elias Ward had taken the seat and the throne bowed, the shock had traveled faster than any warship. Across 1,000 systems, temples that had lain dormant flickered with new light. Dormant relics began to hum, their power cores awakening in resonance. AI constructs, long silent guardians, whispered a single phrase into every mind linked to the galactic net. The Maker has returned. The Empire, already teetering on the brink, divided instantly. The high houses that ruled the Kaleran core worlds were outraged. "A trick," they said, "a glitch in the old machine." A human could not command the throne of ascendancy. Yet others, the miners, the engineers, the enslaved fringe species, felt something stir within them. The stories of old, told in secret, spoke of the makers as beings who built the stars of compassion, not tyranny. They began to call Elias the Remembered One. Within a week, the empire had split in two, the loyalists who clung to their power, and the awakened who followed the human who had made the throne kneel. Elias had not wanted this. He had come for peace, for survival. But history, it seemed, had other plans. He spent his days within the Palace of Stars, trying to understand a connection between himself and the throne. It was no ordinary machine. It was alive, ancient, and filled with fragments of consciousness that had once belonged to humanity's ancestors. When Elias touched it, he could feel their echoes. Men and women who had shaped galaxies, who had fought wars not for conquest but for preservation. One evening, as he sat before the throne's dim glow, the Grand Vizier entered. The same alien who had mocked him now bowed low, his tendrils trembling. "You must leave this world," the Vizier said quietly. "The high houses are gathering. They will come for you. They will burn this planet to dust, if it means erasing what you've awakened." Elias looked up weary but resolute. Let them come. They can't erase what's already remembered. The vizier hesitated. You do not understand. The empire forgot because it had to. The truth was too heavy, too dangerous. Then tell me, Elias said. The alien's eyes, translucent pools of amber, met his. You humans, you are the ones who built us. The Kellerans, the Vorth, the Mycelon, all of us were born from your hands. You shaped us as tools, soldiers, servants. But when the great collapse came, when your kind fell, we took your cities, your ships, your thrones. And in shame, we erased you from our history. We pretended we were always the masters. Elias said nothing. The silence was a blade. So, yes, the vizier whispered, we laughed when humans sat on the throne, because we feared what it would mean if you succeeded. Elias stood, the light of the throne flickering behind him. Then you've already lost, he said softly, because fear is what made you forget, and I remember. Outside, the empire trembled. From the outer colonies, human explorers and settlers, long thought insignificant, began to receive encrypted transmissions. Ancient machines buried beneath alien soil activated, projecting coordinates, blueprints, and forgotten histories. Humanity, scattered among the stars, began to wake up. Ships that had lain dormant for centuries, relics of the Maker Wars, slowly rose from their tombs. They recognized Elias's genetic signature and transmitted a single phrase, awaiting command. And across the empire, the old symbols of humanity, the twin rings of the Makers, began to appear again. The high houses declared a holy war. They branded the human as a false god, a usurper, but it was already too late. Something ancient had shifted in the fabric of the stars, a current that no fleet could stop. Elias Ward, a man who had once sought only peace, had become a symbol of memory itself. And memory, he realized, could be more powerful than any empire. The first shot of the war for the throne wasn't fired by an army. It was fired by a lie. The high houses broadcast their decree across the galaxy. The human has corrupted the throne. They claimed Elias had hacked the sacred systems of the empire, that he was a false prophet wielding forbidden maker technology. Every loyal fleet, every battle station, every mercenary order received the same command: eradicate the imposter. But the throne itself had other plans. Through its vast neural lattice, it reached out to forgotten corners of the empire, to the broken ships orbiting dead suns, to the derelict machines rusting beneath alien sands. It spoke to them in the code of creation, the language of their makers, and they obeyed. When the first loyalist armada approached the capital world, they found the void already filled with light. Ancient human warships, enormous, angular, and beautiful, emerged from the dust of ages. Their hulls bore the mark of the twin rings, glowing faintly. Some were half ruined, patched by time and silence. Yet when they aligned, their combined energy warped the very stars around them. The galaxy remembered what human power had once looked like. Inside the command chamber of the Soul's Grace, Elias stood before a panoramic window as the enemy fleet filled the horizon. The throne's voice murmured in his mind, guiding him through systems and tactics older than any living being. They come to destroy the memory, it said. Then we remind them, Elias replied. The battle that followed would later be called the First Bowing. Loyalist dreadnoughts unleashed suns from their cannons, their beams cutting through space like rivers of molten glass. But the resurrected Maker ships didn't fire first. They shielded colonies, diverted fire, protected life. Their actions deliberate, precise, almost compassionate. When they did strike back, they disabled engines and systems instead of slaughtering crews. Across the empire, billions watched in disbelief. The human-led fleet was winning, but not through conquest, through restraint, through something the galaxy had long forgotten: mercy. For Elias, every decision burned. He didn't want war, but the throne demanded defense. Each command echoed across 1,000 ships, each choice shaping the future of hundreds of worlds. He was no longer just a man. He was becoming a legend. The high houses grew desperate. They unleashed their last weapon, the Crown Shard, a planet killer forged from the same material as the throne itself. Its energy pulse could shatter continents. When the weapon activated, Even the stars dimmed. Elias felt it before sensors detected it. A sharp pain in his mind, like the galaxy itself screaming. The throne's voice broke into static. They aimed for the cradle, for the capital. He saw it. A surge of crimson light, a wave of annihilation heading for the world that held billions, both human and alien. Without hesitation, Elias ordered the fleet to intercept. The Soul's Grace and 3 other Maker ships aligned, channeling their combined reactors. They had one chance. The ship shuddered as energy flooded its core. "Captain, if we fire, we burn the ship," said his lieutenant. "Then we burn," Elias said, his voice calm. No empire is worth saving if it costs its soul. They fired. The sky split open. White fire met crimson death. For a heartbeat, there was only light. Then silence. The crown shard imploded, its power collapsing inward, devouring itself. The explosion rippled through space, scattering fleets and shattering comms across the sector. When the light faded, half the Maker fleet was gone, vaporized. The Soul's Grace drifted, engines crippled. Elias opened his eyes amid the wreckage. His body ached, but the throne's pulse still beat faintly within him. "We're still here," he whispered. The war didn't end that day. But something in the hearts of the enemy did. Reports flooded in, entire loyalist crews defecting, cities rising in rebellion, fleets refusing to fire on ships bearing the twin rings. The legend spread faster than the fighting. They said the human had stopped a weapon that could kill worlds. They said the throne itself shielded him. They said the stars bent when he spoke. In the ruins of the High Council, the Grand Vizier, once his enemy, declared the truth aloud. The throne bows not to fear. It bows to faith. And so the war changed. It was no longer about power or species. It was about what the empire could become, and who would remember what it once was. The war had burned for 5 long years. By the time it ended, the galaxy itself seemed tired of blood. Entire sectors lay silent, their suns dimmed by debris, their worlds scarred with the remains of forgotten battles. The banners of the high houses had fallen one by one, not through conquest, but through surrender. For every fleet Elias destroyed, 10 more laid down their arms, unwilling to fight a man who carried both the burden and mercy of the Makers. And at the heart of it all, the throne of ascendancy pulsed like a beating heart once more. Elias Ward, the human who had once been mocked for even touching it, now sat before its living light, not as a conqueror, but as a question-made flesh. The empire had gathered its survivors, its broken, its exiles, and all waited for his decision. Would he rule them, or would he free them? He stood before the Galactic Council, a gathering not of nobles or conquerors, but of representatives from every species that remained. The vast chamber where laughter once mocked him now stood silent, bathed in the light of 1,000 holographic constellations. "I never wanted a throne," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "And yet, the throne chose me. Maybe not because of who I am, but because of what humanity forgot to be." The air trembled. Even the stars seemed to listen. "When we built the stars," Elias continued, "we made a mistake. We created wonders, but we stopped listening. We called ourselves gods and forgot how to be human. And when the fall came, the galaxy learned our worst truth, that power without compassion destroys everything it touches." He turned to the throne. Its surface glimmered, alive with faint ripples of light. "I've seen enough empires rise and fall. I've watched worlds burn for pride, species vanish for power. No more." He placed his hand upon the throne, and for the first time it didn't shine. It dimmed. The light softened, its brilliance folding inward, as if the universe itself were bowing in understanding. "Command accepted," the throne whispered in his mind. "Initiate reformation?" "Yes," he said. "No more rulers. No more gods. Just unity." The throne's energy pulsed outward, a wave of light expanding across the stars. From system to system, it spread through the ancient Maker network, awakening relics, terraforming lost worlds, rebuilding cities destroyed by war. But it also did something no one expected. It disconnected itself. The throne's authority, its power over ships, fleets, and worlds, dissolved into the fabric of the galaxy itself. The Empire's control structure broke apart, not in destruction, but in liberation. Every world, every species, was left free to govern itself, bound only by a single shared code written in the light of the makers. Remember what you are. Some called it the Great Dissolution. Others called it the Second Creation. Elias called it peace. He spent his final days aboard the rebuilt Soul's Grace, orbiting the quiet world where it all began. The galaxy moved on, not under one ruler, but under the guidance of countless voices. Humanity, once scattered and forgotten, became the bridge between races, the memory of creation made humble and alive. The Grand Vizier, now old and frail, visited him one last time. "You could have ruled them all," he said softly. "You could have been the first emperor in 10,000 years." Elias smiled, staring out at the stars. "Ruling them would have been easy," he said. "Teaching them to stand on their own, that's what makes us human." The Vizier bowed deeply, not in ceremony, but in gratitude. "Then it's true what they say," he whispered. "The throne didn't choose a master. It chose a memory." As the sun set over the horizon, Elias felt the throne's pulse fade within him. The bond that once tied him to the heart of the Empire dissolved gently, leaving only warmth. He looked up one last time, at the stars that had once belonged to no one and now belonged to everyone. "Rewrite them," he said quietly to the universe, not with power, but with hope. And somewhere deep in the cosmic void, the throne's consciousness, now free, now everywhere, whispered back, "Acknowledge Maker. The stars are listening." The light spread, the constellations shifted, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy was truly alive again. A human had sat on the throne had bowed, and together they had rewritten the stars.